Our next guest is former diplomat, yep, thank you very much, entrepreneur and film producer Nicole Avant. Her best-selling memoir, Think You'll Be Happy, is out in paperback now. The book recounts the night when her mother, Jacqueline, was fatally shot during a 2021 home invasion and how Nicole learned to turn her pain into purpose. Jacqueline, married to music industry legend he was, Clarence Avant, look at the two of them, was a Los Angeles philanthropist and activist who was a huge supporter of programs for children and the arts. Nicole's husband, he's kind of a slouch. Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos is his name. He writes a new foreword to this book. It's beautifully done. They both join us for an interview. You'll see only on CBS Mornings, and we welcome you both.
Thank you.
Nicole, all kidding aside, when I read the words 2021, I can't believe that you lost your mother and that it's been that long.
I know.
Your mother, let's just put it on the record, was the epitome of class and grace. It was so hard to believe that we lost her in the way that we lost her. And I remember that day. I remember that night. But you say, this book, when you first did it, it's not about loss, it's about life.
Yes. I wanted to make sure that her legacy was cemented, because the last thing I needed was everyone to think, oh, who's Jacqueline Avant? This murder happened in Beverly Hills.
Yes.
Oh, no, my mom lived a life, and she lived a great life of 81 years, and she was purposeful with her life and positive with her life.
One of my favorite quotes from the book is, grief is a receipt from the universe showing that you love someone.
Yes.
Why was it important for you to write it? And she was deeply loved, your mom.
She was deeply loved, and I also, there's so many ways that everyone says you're going to go through all these different stages of grief, and this is going to happen at this time, and this is it, and it's really not that. And I realize that we don't talk about grief enough and talk about it as a part of life. My mom would always say, we all talk about the circle of life, and then we put death outside of the circle. But death is inside of the circle, and I wanted to make sure that people understood that they weren't alone and that it's okay to have the emotions.
Ted, how did it come about that you wrote the foreword? Because this isn't something you normally do. Did you ask him? Did you ask him, or did you go to her?
She asked me. We realized after when the book came out and all the talk about the book and retelling of the story over and over again, that Nicole, pointed out to me. She says, "This is part of your journey too, and it would be great if you could share it." And I'd lost my father just before Jacqueline, just within a few days before, and it had occurred to me how much I had learned from Nicole and from this book about grief itself. And I'm a fairly private person, so writing this was a different exercise for me and for us.
You said, Nicole, she was in conductor mode some days, angry some days, deeply sad. I knew that wherever she was, I would meet her there. That's the name of the foreword. I love that. She had to stop helping me plan my father's funeral and tend to planning her mother's, neither of which we saw coming. How did you two work on this together? Because you're both going through grief, a 1-2 punch together.
I will admit, it was very hard in the beginning. And Teddy and I had to look at each other, and I said, we're going to go through so many roller coaster rides, and we have to make a decision to each other that we're going to stay together, and we're not going to let this rip us apart. We're not going to let this take apart our marriage, because I understand how that happens with tragedy. I see why families fall apart. And we had Clarence. We had my father. We had a 92-year-old baby, I'd like to say, who was living with us, and he was so, we wanted to make sure that he felt safe, that he felt loved, that he felt nurtured.
Yeah, I mean, because you lose your dad, Ted. 2 years later, you lose your dad, and then Clarence comes to live with you. And you were there when Clarence died. You were in the room.
I was with Clarence when he passed, and it was, for me, it was very part of this life cycle, because I was not in town when my father passed away. And so to actually have this kind of very intimate moment with Clarence at the end of his life, which I'd never seen before, been in that situation before. It was really incredible.
I think people are curious, guys, about the two of you as a couple together. We've been calling you the power couple all morning because you're a producer, you're the big cheese over at Netflix, and you have projects that you work together. What is it like working together with each other? Because I know she doesn't speak her mind.
No.
What is that like for the two of you? What happens when you just produced 688, which was on Netflix?
Yes.
How does that dynamic work at home?
I will say Ted is very supportive and very loving, and not everything really ends up, I've been fortunate that it ends up at Netflix, But everything that
What do you mean you've been fortunate?
I've been fortunate I was really, I mean, I don't go to him and say, this has to be on Netflix, this has to be on Netflix. I go to him and I say, you know, he says, what are you working on? And I say, oh my gosh, we have this 6888 project, and I think Tyler Perry is going to do it. And then he was able to say—
I didn't want that to go anywhere else.
He didn't want it to go anywhere else. And he said Tyler had just done a Jazz Man Blues.
Yes.
And he loved it.
So he gets first dibs on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I want to talk to you too, Ted, about football on Netflix. Who would think, when I first heard it, I go, football on Netflix? How's that going to work?
Yeah.
Apparently very well.
Very well.
What did you see in that?
Look, obviously
yes.
people love the NFL and they love football.
Yeah.
And Christmas Day, I thought it was an opportunity for us to take something that people really love, put our own spin on it. And Christmas Day football, where we had back-to-back games and this incredible halftime show with Beyonce, and just turn it into a Netflix version of a day of football.
Yes.
Something that could be unique and ownable, even though the NFL is all over the place on television. So.
Yeah.
So you see more to come when it comes to live events on Netflix.
For
You're already
sure.
laying the
Yeah.
groundwork.
The main thing is I want them to be big events. I want people to be very excited. It's interesting because, you know, you can get to almost anything you want, anytime you want now. So in those moments when you actually get together live, it's very exciting.
Well, listen, I'm a longtime Netflix subscriber, and I got something in the mail saying my rates are going to go up. Who should I talk to about it? Is there someone I can call that I can find out why the hell is this happening? I know I'm not the only one asking that, Ted Sarandos.
Well,
What's the thinking?
we keep coming back to you because we keep coming up with more and more value. So as long as you are seeing the value, how much time you spend with us, do you love the things you watch with us?
I do.
That every once in a while we have to come back and ask for a little bit more so we can keep that cycle going.
It's asking for a little bit more part. I think we ought to just let it be, don't you? Is business model working?
We have to keep driving value to you. So.
But congratulations, Nicole, because I think
Thank you.
what you said, listen, everyone faces grief at some point. The big question is, how do you respond?
Yeah.
Yes.
And this book has sort of given us a way to do that. And talk about turning your pain into purpose. You've
I
done
was
that
just
very
going to
well.
Thank you.
And
Thank
bravo
you.
to you, Ted Sarandos. It's a beautifully
Thank you,
written
Gayle.
forward. And I will keep my Netflix subscription. Would you like to share with the class your number in case anyone wants to talk to you personally?
No, we got this.
No? Okay. Thank you, guys.
People find me.
Thank you.
The paperback edition of Think You'll Be Happy is on sale now, wherever you like to buy your books.